Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Tiabu, and if you can't tell, I'm kind of exhausted because it has been a very long day of watching new things. And I'm just gonna go through them really quickly and talk about them so that you have a shorter version summary thing that you can look at and then decide whether any of these things might be up your alley. So today, we started off with watching some things that I had actually that aired yesterday, and that I just could not get to yesterday, and then I pushed them to today, making today again really packed with other shows. So I started off this morning with Honzuki no Gekko Kujo, Ascendance of a Bookworm, which is, I guess people are calling it librarian isekai, and that's a pretty solid representation of what the show is. There is a person. We don't know much about her during her normal life except that she loved books, and she gets dead by reasons we don't know anything about why. And then she wakes up in the body of a 6-ish year old girl in a in poverty in a medieval times sort of situation. Feudal land, not in the best place, like a terrible, grungy, dusty house, and discovers that there are no books anywhere to be found, and indeed, the most of the people around her, including her now family, which is a little weird, uh, uh, don't know what books are. So we're in the Middle Ages ish, but it's an isekai fantasy world with, I assume, magic, and books don't exist because they're really expensive to actually write things down and write things elsewhere. Uh, I found this episode kind of split down the middle. The first half of the episode was just barely good enough for me to keep watching, and then it sort of opened up a little bit, and I kind of found myself lulled into the sort of the nature of the episode and the feel of it and the vibe of it. And honestly, it's got some pretty good vibes. I don't love it by any means, but it's got strong character designs and relatively okay direction and stuff. It's kind of stiff. It's kind of lacking in terms of like impressive cuts or anything like that, but that's not really the point that it's going for. I also think that this is a piece of media that probably functions better in novel format or light novel format, as it is a light novel adaptation and it is about books. It just seems like that meta element to it is kind of important and kind of missing when it's in an anime adaptation. I'm also not a huge fan of the framing device, which is, I mean, it's the first scene of the episode, so it's not really spoiling much to tell you about it. But like, there's an older magician-y looking guy who knocks the 6 or 7 year old girl out with a cup of apparently drugged wine, and then starts to sift through her memories using magical means, which I found a little bit creepy and a little bit weird. But that serves as sort of the framing device. We're going through the memories of this character, and that also has a bit of a problem because it takes any tension out of things, because we know where she's going to end up by the end of the series, and that is in this guy's room talking to him about her past and stuff, or not talking, but having him sift through her memories. It's kind of weird, but it's got some cuteness. The main character's design is rather solid, and it's not lacking in the animation department. There just isn't that much of it, if that makes sense. I don't know. If you like books and you like cute characters figuring out their place in the world, that seems to be what this is, and I don't have a problem with it, but I also didn't instantly fall in love with it. Although I could see some people that I know instantly falling in love with this and just being like, yep, this is one of my shows this season, boom. But not for me. And you're going to hear the phrase "not for me" more than a few times during this video, because a lot of the shows we watched today were not for me. Next thing that I watched was the other thing that I pushed from yesterday, and I wish I had watched it yesterday because it was a pleasant surprise, and it was Oreski, or Ore o ski nano wa omae dake kayo. Fucking titles. This show was alright, and for the first like 3 minutes, I hated it, and then for the first like 7 minutes, I was like, this is all right, and then the reveal happened, and I got the joke. Um, when you go into this, you're going to probably realize that this is the most generic setup and most like you've seen all of the elements of this before, and that was why I hated it. And then you're going to notice that there are a few things that are a little bit different, and you're gonna be like, and that was where I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then the reveal happens, which is that, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you feel like watching something that's a comedy and takes things in maybe a direction you don't expect, this could be good. I'm a little bit iffy on continuing this show. It was definitely the best of the shows that I watched today, but I have a feeling that it's riding heavily on the strength of its premise and introductory sequence, that being the big reveal of like, oh, that's what we're doing with this. And it functions kind of in a way that's similar to, this is going to sound weird, but similar to Doki Doki Literature Club, and that's the vibe that I got from it. There are these very classic archetypal characters, and then they are subverted. So he's Protag Kun essentially. So, if that sounds interesting to you, I'd say give it a shot. I'm going to hold out until episode 2 to determine whether it seems like there's enough creative energy and like thought put into this to actually create an interesting story, or whether somebody just had an idea for a story that was interesting and then had to just continue fucking around for the rest of the episodes. We're gonna have to wait and see. I just don't know. Um, it was okay. I enjoyed the episode thoroughly and enjoyed it more than anything else that I watched today, but it was just okay still. So the bar is low. The bar is low for today. The third thing that I watched today was Choyoyu High School Prodigies, whatever. It's got one of those really long isekai light novel names. And this one was by Project 9, the studio Project 9. Uh, this was bog standard mediocrity as far as I'm concerned. I would say it's maybe one tick above the bare minimum of like a watchable show, which puts it at about a 6 in my book. If it gets better and cuter, then maybe it could go up to a 7. If it falls flat and starts relying on tropes, it could go down to a 5, but I'd say it's probably right around the 6 range. I'm probably not going to continue watching this show. The premise is pretty straightforward, and it's kind of you get what you paid for or what you see. There are 7 high school students who are super duper exceptional in their own fields. There's one politician who's a high schooler. There's one entrepreneur who's a high schooler. There's one journalist ninja who's a high schooler. There's one samurai swordswoman who's a high schooler. There's one magician who's a high schooler. There's one, I'm running out of people, but I'm also forgetting who the other ones are. Oh, there's an inventor lady who's a high schooler. There's one more who I've completely forgotten. A lot of them are kind of forgettable. They have their thing that they do and that they are super duper mega good at, but they're all high schoolers. And then they all get on a plane together for reasons that aren't really clear, and then they crash land into the world of big titty elf girls and big titty fox girls. Straight up, that's what you're introduced to. Yeah, it's about what it sounds like. There's a really strange scene in the very beginning of the episode that I'm not going to spoil for you because I think it needs to be enjoyed. Uh, let's just say I think it is the first thing that has caused me to visibly gag on camera ever. And then the episode becomes like a mediocre version of Isekai Shokudo. They are super overpowered and they have everything they could possibly want in this world. There is absolutely nothing that is going to threaten them, as one does as an isekai protagonist or group of isekai protagonists. But honestly, I found the episode pretty fun. The production value is not great, but it's good enough. And the characters so far are just their archetype, and like what you're told is what you get. This guy's an entrepreneur and this guy's a politician. The analogy that makes the most sense to me for this show is like if you took epic level 20 D&D characters, a full party of them, and you just sort of dropped them into the level 1 starting area again, this is what would result. They're just there and they're like, "Yep, we can do whatever we want." And that's what they're going to do. They're going to literally take it easy in an isekai world. Okay, if it sounds fun to you to have like a feel good, happy, fun time in a magical fantasy world with a bunch of high school students who are super duper OP, this could be interesting. I'm probably not going to watch more of it, as I said, but I wouldn't be opposed to watching more of it either. But this is the kind of show that I would be like looking for something random to watch that I don't have to care about very much and would just binge in one sitting. Um, yeah, yeah. So that wraps that up. And then finally, the last show that I watched today. I still don't know how to feel about it. It is a gotcha show. It is Azur Lane or Azur. They're saying it Azur, not Azure. No, it doesn't matter. This is a panty shot and waifu fest, of girls who are boats or like aircraft carriers or destroyers and things, and they're all named after the aircraft carriers or destroyers and things because they're the characters that you assemble your fleet from in the gotcha game Azur Lane. So yeah, the first half of the episode is just sort of like introducing characters one after another because there are like a billion of them, and they're all I guess they're all unique, but I don't really remember any of them. I remember Unicorn because she rides on a fucking unicorn. It's CG. There's some pretty bad CG in this. There's some pretty okay CG and tracking shots in this. The whole show is incredibly bright, like bright white light and um characters I guess are cute. I don't find any of them very appealing, partly because it's just sort of like a wall of fan service coming at me. The use of music in the show was pretty solid. I will say that the show is also it's bright and loud. It is blinding and deafening. So like turn down your volume a little bit if you decide to watch this, and maybe squint a little. Seriously, I have no idea what was happening in the episode. I just sort of sat here, kind of like, all right, I guess this is happening. It was a weird one. I, I'm gonna say that if you play Azure Lane and like gotcha shows, then you'll probably like this, and if you don't, you won't. I don't, so I didn't. Yeah. Okay, so those are the 4 shows that I watched today. If I had to rank them, I would probably say Oriski takes the top, and then Bookworm and Choyoyu are like kind of on the same level under that, and then I'd put Azure Lane below that. Really didn't care for Azure Lane. Sorry, people who love Azure Lane. I'm sure that you have your reasons. If you have your reasons for loving that show or that media, let me know because I don't get it. I mean, I do. It's obvious, right? On the face of it, it's obvious. Shitloads of waifus, lots of fighting, bombastic music and sound effects, but it's just like white noise to me. I don't know. So Oreski probably takes the cake, but it's probably a 7 or a mid 7 at best. Low bar for today. Honestly, nothing today came even close to the way that I felt about Ahiru no Sora or Shincho Yusha, the 2 shows that really pleasantly surprised me yesterday. Today was a weaker day, which is fine and actually kind of a good thing because I have other things to watch on Thursdays. Anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts on the shows that I watched. Let me know what you thought of the shows that you watched. We can discuss this kind of stuff. Yay! I'm gonna go make some food or something now because it's pretty late and I need to rest. Yeah. Peace.